A plane was sitting on the runway, engines running, peace within reach, and then a phone call killed it all. If you've been wondering why the world feels like it's sitting on a knife's edge right now, stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you're going to understand exactly how three separate power failures inside the United States government are pushing the entire planet toward a breaking point, and none of it is being reported the way it should be. Drop a comment right now if you think accountability in government still exists, because by the end of this, you might change your answer. Let's start with something most Americans have never heard of. It was called the Public Integrity Section, a division of the U.S. Department of Justice created directly in response to the Watergate scandal. For nearly 50 years, it was the one arm of the federal government with a single sacred job: prosecute public officials who abuse their power. Senators, governors, judges, mayors, Democrats and Republicans alike. It was, by design, politically blind. Then, in the opening weeks of 2025, it was quietly destroyed. The career head of the office was removed on day one of the new administration. Prosecutors were ordered to drop corruption charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams, charges that a federal judge later described as having been dropped in what she called a breathtaking political bargain. 5 senior officials resigned rather than comply with orders they described as immoral, illegal, and unethical. The office's authority to open new investigations was stripped. Its staff was reduced from 36 career lawyers to 2. That is not a budget cut. That is not restructuring. That is the deliberate dismantling of the only institution designed to hold the powerful accountable. And here is what nobody is asking loudly enough. If the unit that prosecutes corrupt officials no longer exists, who exactly is left to prosecute the officials who destroyed it? That question becomes even more dangerous when you look at what is happening 8,000 miles away in the Strait of Hormuz. Because the domestic collapse of institutional integrity and the international military crisis are not separate stories. They are the same story. 3 U.S. destroyers were targeted by Iranian missiles, drones, and fast boats this week. The Pentagon confirmed the attacks and confirmed the response. American forces struck Iranian missile launch sites, command and control locations, and surveillance infrastructure. Iran's state media simultaneously announced the creation of something called the Persian Gulf Straits Authority, a new agency demanding that every commercial ship, every civilian vessel, every international cargo carrier passing through the strait check in and pay a toll. This is not a regional inconvenience. The Strait of Hormuz carries approximately 20% of the world's oil supply. Close it, tax it, or weaponize it, and you don't just destabilize a region. You send food prices, fuel costs, and economic stability into freefall for billions of people. Analysts are already warning that prolonged disruption could push 45 million people toward acute hunger. Think about that number for a second. 45 million. And share this if you think people deserve to understand what is actually happening in that waterway right now. Now, here is the moment that stopped everything. And if you only remember one thing from this video, make it this. On Friday, a high-level American delegation was preparing to fly to Islamabad, Pakistan, for a second round of peace negotiations with Iran. Pakistan had emerged as a rare and credible mediator, sharing a border with Iran, maintaining workable relationships with both Tehran and Washington, and with no direct stake in the outcome beyond desperately needing stability on its western border. The first round of talks in early April had been described as extensive. No resolution, but both sides in the same city. In diplomacy, that is not nothing. That is frequently the hardest step. Iran's foreign minister had physically traveled to Islamabad. He met with Pakistan's prime minister. He then traveled on to Muscat for additional consultations. The Iranian delegation was present, engaged, and moving through the diplomatic circuit in real time. Air Force Two was on the runway at Joint Base Andrews, engines on, ready to depart. The most concrete step toward ending this war that anyone had seen in weeks. And then Trump picked up the phone. Not to a foreign leader, not to a general, not to a diplomat, to a Fox News interviewer. And here, in his own words, is how the President of the United States explained canceling a peace mission the entire world was watching. He said, "I told my people just now they were getting ready to leave. Don't make an 18-hour flight to go all the way over there." That was the explanation. Not a strategic calculation, not classified intelligence, not a breakdown in the framework. The flight was too long. A plane carrying America's best hope for de-escalation sat on that runway and never left. Oil prices surged by Monday morning. Iran's hardliners, who had been arguing all along that the United States was never a serious negotiating partner, were handed exactly the evidence they needed. Inside Tehran, the pragmatists who had staked their credibility on the Islamabad process, the ones who understood that the naval blockade was slowly strangling their economy, were suddenly without an argument. And Pakistan, the one country that had managed to get both sides near the same table, had its credibility as a mediator quietly shredded. This is the part that never makes it into the quick headlines. Trump then told reporters near Air Force One, "We're not going to spend 15 hours on planes going back and forth to deliver a document that wasn't good enough. We'll negotiate by phone, and they can call us anytime they want." Negotiate by phone. With Iran. About ending a war that has closed one of the world's most critical waterways, displaced hundreds of thousands of people, and is reshaping the entire Middle East. The Iranian response was immediate. A senior advisor stated publicly that the ceasefire extension Trump had announced meant nothing. The Iranian ambassador to the United Nations said negotiations could resume once the United States ended its naval blockade of Iranian ports. Washington's position was the mirror image. Negotiate first, then we'll consider the blockade. Neither side willing to move first. No trusted mediator left to sequence the concessions. And in the vacuum left by a canceled flight, the hardliners on both sides grew louder. Meanwhile, back in Washington, pressure is building from an unexpected direction. Republican senators, including Tom Tillis and Lisa Murkowski, have signaled they may support a war authorization vote once the conflict crosses 60 days. Senate Majority Leader John Thune has not ruled it out beyond 90 days. So here is the question that connects all three of these stories: the gutted Justice Division, the burning strait, the abandoned runway. What happens to a country and to the world when the people responsible for making the hardest decisions have already dismantled every system designed to hold them accountable for those decisions? That is not a rhetorical question. It is the most important question of this moment, and you deserve a straight answer, which is exactly why we track this story every single day and bring you the analysis you won't find packaged this clearly anywhere else. If this gave you a clearer picture of what is actually happening, share it with someone who needs to see it. The information exists, it just rarely gets connected this way. And if you want this level of analysis delivered to you daily, subscribe. No noise, no spin, just the full story every day.